Are you recording?
I'm recording.
Oh, great.
Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody.
Hold on, I gotta put my headphones in.
Certainly, yes. I remember that from before. For the week of February 20th, it's Matt. Hey, you remember what I forgot to do last week? You know?
Did you not do any of the intro?
I didn't introduce us at all. I feel like I did some of the intro, but Matt Amberg now has all of the intro.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, and Ryan Miller. I guess not.
And this is Book Club for Movies. And yes. We're recording on a Saturday, so nothing makes sense to us right now. It's earlier than normal. Things are falling apart at the seams for everybody. So welcome to Book Club for Movies for the week of February 20. Yep. And I'm Matt Amberg, and with me, as always, doing his hosting abilities is the toy maker himself, Ryan Miller.
Toy maker. Yep, that's what they call me. Bust out the toys, I say.
Yeah. Okay. And today we're going to be talking about M3GAN. Ryan, do you have a synopsis?
Oh no, we can't carry it this far because I don't. No, I don't.
Oh.
Did we do no, I guess we wouldn't have done a synopsis either last week because that's yeah, right.
It was a grab bag. Today is a real show, so I have a real synopsis.
A real show for real boys.
Yeah.
This week, and girls. I mean, guys, primarily girls, really.
Anybody. It's really for anybody.
But that's true.
But we know it's book club for duders, and that's unfortunate.
So if you too have a tiny young girl robot at your house,
don't let us know. Keep that to yourself, and maybe don't announce it.
On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week. And if you want to talk to us, you can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com, Facebook and Twitter.
I forgot that part.
It's fine. I feel like it's a wash between last and this week. What the things I forgot last week, I said this week. The things I did okay last week, complete another mess this week.
I mean, if you look at the historical
50-50.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I feel like you could pick any show and it's going to be one way or the other.
This one's a little rough, I said. In retrospect, did you, in fact, have a synopsis for the movie M3GAN, otherwise known as M3GAN, otherwise known as Model 3 Generative Android? I think I just read that too.
Wait, it's called M3GAN?
Model 3 this is the first year. I believe the creators, if we're attributing authorial intent, yes, I think they were going for M3GAN.
All right. Well,
come on. It makes sense. We all know a M3GAN, and this kind of fits.
I do know a M3GAN, and she could.
See,
all I know about that M3GAN is that you don't want to get on her bad side.
Nope.
Yeah, and I love that M3GAN. She's a good friend, M3GAN.
I don't actually know a M3GAN, so
I do.
It just feels like a M3GAN. She does,
Yeah, you seem like a M3GAN. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And speaking of M3GAN, coming at you in an hour and 42 minutes, written by Akilah Cooper, directed by Gerard Johnstone, starring Allison Williams, Violet McGraw, Ronnie Cheng, Amy Donald, and Jenna Davis. Here is your Book Club for Movie synopsis for M3GAN. When a toy maker's new design takes its programming directives a little too literally, a recall may in fact be too late.
I like the concept of a recall in this situation.
It's great. It's great.
I want to apologize. First and foremost, we talked about this very briefly on last week's show.
You do want to apologize.
I was going to say you don't even know necessarily where I'm going, but it is correct. It must be fine.
You're right.
We talked about M3GAN briefly because you had seen it. Mm-hmm. In fact, one of the reasons we decided to do this was a time-saving device wherein we choose a movie that has already been watched to some extent, although still recently. I mean, the thing is only a couple weeks old, right?
Yeah, and I texted you, I think, as soon as I finished it. It was like, you have to watch this movie.
Yes, you may have. Yeah, that is correct. Although not a rare thing.
True.
But still.
Pretty much after every movie, I'm like, dude, you should watch this. And you're like,
it does make the layout. No.
I've seen Avatar: The Last Airbender. Thank you.
Weirdest reveal in that movie. My gosh, there's a riff tracks for it, and it is. I
Oh,
would
that
recommend
would
it.
be a worth
Yeah.
one. Yeah, that's a worthwhile one.
Because Shyamalan is such a we can talk about this later.
Maybe we should. Maybe we should do an Avatar retrospective wherein we talk
should.
about the actual cartoon, the movie, and then James Cameron.
Yeah, we should do an entire show where you make a joke and I take it seriously for 5 to 10 minutes, and then.
Oh, so have you haven't listened to other episodes of Book Club for Movies, then, have you?
I identified, or see, this is the thing. This is what's happened. I'll explain it from the beginning.
All right.
Twitter
I'll allow
is a garbage fire. Will you? Come on.
I will. I'll allow it.
But one of those garbage fires has been the complete, I believe, cessation of any API, right? Like there are no third-party apps for Twitter anymore.
Yeah, I don't think so. They're
wrong?
all like, I think they're all dead, or they have to pay to use it.
Is that? I feel like
they have to pay. You have to pay to use the API.
Okay, well, at least they finally came out with that, because I always used. Oh, that's not true. I used. In fact, it's been a series of me using the better app for Twitter, Twitter buying that app, ruining it, and me having to switch apps. So
yes,
somewhere along the line, I made it to Twitterrific. And they would release, just a splash screen that would come up every time you open the app because it stopped working. And they're like, hey, we don't know why. They haven't told us anything, and they won't tell us anything. And that went on for a few weeks until finally, like, we just have to discontinue the app. Sorry. So what has happened is that I dislike the actual Twitter app so much that my kind of only source of staying up to date with anything has poofed. So I, every now and then I'll still try, but like 3 ads later, I'm like, nah, this is so.
It's awful.
I'm not getting all of the information even that I used to get, including information on the movie M3GAN, which I feel like maybe I would have known not to call it a Chucky-like last week. So I mean, you're right. It's probably a comparison that other people have and will make.
Always, it's gonna be forever there.
But it is not.
And that's why it's going
appropriate.
It will only be there for people who have not seen it.
It is the most surface level. Like, I see her, she looks like a doll. She might look like, in fact, yeah, during the show there are moments because she has a very doll face, like Chucky. But it is such a different movie, and I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Child's Play, but I think M3GAN might be a better movie than Child's Play. Even
that's interesting. I'd have to really think about that, because Child's Play is surprisingly, if you take out the silly aspect of it being that it's a doll, that's actually a pretty taut little thriller, honestly.
Oh, no, yeah, and
it's a good little movie.
No shade thrown at Child's Play.
But I do see what you're saying, where this might be this is a different take. This, to me, this is like, I guess that the best way I can put it is, I think this is almost like RoboCop for kids.
Which, let's be fair, the original RoboCop was RoboCop for kids.
It is, and still is.
Shouldn't be, but back then in the 80s, when every action
I saw it
rated
in the theater.
R thriller was for children in some way, they had the toys. I haven't seen any M3GAN toys, but I'm sure
there was a cartoon for RoboCop, man.
Yes, right. That's what I'm saying. Oh, those were the days.
But this is like, it is in the sense that the concept of RoboCop being we're creating an android that won't have any, it'll be humanoid, but it won't have any of the human aspects to it, and it'll only follow our prime directives. But it doesn't quite work that way, because it's figured something, it's still human. The main difference here, of course, is M3GAN is not at all human. She's just AI, right. And it's a situation where the AI is learning and figures things out and taking. It's actually, funny enough, M3GAN is kind of like Ultron. It takes everything extremely literally.
Mm-hmm.
And
sure.
she's like, okay.
Little data in there from Star Trek, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Every android that's ever existed, probably M3GAN.
Yeah. It's a callback
I just realized that. Callback to every android movie ever.
Yep.
Battlestar Galactica. She has eyes like the Cylons have one. So she's got two, but it's the same thing.
Wow, you went all the way back to the... it's been so long since I've seen the new Battlestar. Did they have the one?
I don't remember. I only remember the
Okay.
original. I never
The
watched.
original,
I
right,
never
yeah.
watched the follow. We tried and got like
Really?
two episodes in, and it was like it's all right. I just am not interested.
Early on in that series, I remember feeling the same way. It was kind of just like, well, there's not a lot of these, and this is probably the best one right now.
Yeah.
But as the show went on, so I mean, Dean Stockwell shows up, and there's a lot to love about the later seasons of that.
I mean, you just said Dean Stockwell, so that
I did.
That
Mhm.
jacks up the interest level. I did not know that.
Mhm.
Anyways, M3GAN.
Yep.
Let's talk about M3GAN.
So, M3GAN is a fantastic movie. I loved M3GAN so much that it is a, as you would say about Child's Play, tight little thriller.
Yeah.
It is about as much for kids. It's certainly more. Okay. RoboCop is for kids in that it came out in the 80s, but still, I mean, it's a Verhoeven. It shows everything. They don't leave anything to the imagination, right? M3GAN at the very least, and I believe they did have to send it back for... There's an unrated.
Reshoots. Yes, there's an unrated coming out. It's actually, I think it's either out now or it comes out to this upcoming Tuesday, and not a ton is added to it, but it's extensions and scenes that are already there, so you get more of the little bit more of the gore, even though the movie isn't all that gory. So like the ear thing, the ear scene is extended. There's more to it. You
the ear. I love the imagery of that. The ear
that stretches forever.
Also, perhaps the ear, yes, that is extended.
And they cut out a couple, and the unrated also adds in some swears. That's seriously it. It's a couple of extra. Nothing new. There's no extra kills. There's no extra anything like that. It was just they literally had to trim it to get it to where they could make PG-13. So
yeah. So and honestly, they do well with what they have because they don't show the thing. There's a death by pressure washer in there, which I don't know who else grew up with the looming threat of anytime you're around a pressure washer, your parents always told you that will take the skin off. You got to be careful. I've never seen that realized although it probably has been. Certainly, but they don't show it. So yeah, it is kind of safely PG-13.
Yeah,
maybe emphasis on the 13, but to its strength, it's really good.
No. This is an excellent example where I'll watch the unrated one when I get a chance, but I did not feel the need. Like at the end of the movie, even throughout, this is like a perfect movie dealing with maintaining its level of excess, right? Like it's not going overboard with it. It's still giving you that charge of that's really awful. That's really like the pressure washer thing, man. I remember being told if you put the nozzle up to your skin, it'll blow a hole right through you.
Right through you. Yep.
Right through you. And I don't know if it's true, but the movie sure did. So they do a really good job in maintaining a level of horror movie quality and the stuff that makes a good horror movie without taking the excess and going so far overboard that it's just like it's Terrifier levels. It's not even close to that, right?
Right. Yeah.
This is
knowing but understanding.
No, but this is very much so they're letting your imagination do significantly more work than the effect on the screen.
And not to undersell what they do.
Poop.
Because this thing's pretty solid from the start. Like it does a lot more under the surface than I think I was expecting, again, probably because of that stupid Chucky comparison.
Yeah.
But Allison Williams, her character Gemma, is designing a toy. There's pressure from her boss, but there's this almost very first scene where he walks in to be like, "Are you working on this thing I told you not to work on again?" And she is, to the extent that M3GAN is kind of hanging up. She only has the face on at this point. The rest just looks like a robot. And they are having this discussion about this project while M3GAN, her face only, is blinking, kind of ever present in the background. And this is proto M3GAN. Nobody's getting killed or whatever, but it's so darn effective at foreshadowing, but also there's a moment where he goes to take the face off because there's an issue with it, or he hasn't put in some sort of a heat sink or something like that.
Yeah.
So it begins to melt.
Yes.
And look, it's such a strong beginning to a also strong movie from there on out. But it's that combined with there's this whole commerciality to it because they're having to sell M3GAN. So there's these numerous and brilliant moments of kind of the intersection of marketing and horror.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Which probably doesn't, it's not that big of a jump for some people.
Well, especially
speaking of Twitter and the ads there,
and especially when you get to that moment where they actually are selling it, and they have you've got the guy who's running the company essentially has brought in every investor in the world that can spend billions because they're like, this is going to be the thing. And they bring that in, and then M3GAN at this point now has some sort of sentience, but still puts on a show. Like how?
Oh, that is a brilliant,
amazing.
Can we go straight there? Yeah, we'll come back to marketing horror maybe, but
well, I think they dovetail. Continue with your marketing horror.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think that moment dovetails perfectly with kind of where you're going, I think.
It's also, because that's the other kind of strong subtext I would call out is that it's dealing with maybe kind of the obvious, humanity and AI and all that, but it isn't that movie where it's just AI run amok.
Right.
It is a movie about, maybe on its face, a little less subtexty, about devices, about technology, how it can take over, how, what happens when we're not disciplined or educated, stuff like that.
And actually, I'll take that a step further real quick, is that I think the other thing this movie does touch on, and it does so, I think, in the subtext while being pretty blatant, but if you're not thinking about it.
So I say the least amount.
It's also the fact that it specifically kind of deals with young people being glued to their technology, like to their phones, that it's totally referencing that as the film goes on, because Gemma wants to take M3GAN away. She wants her daughter to have a little bit of time away from M3GAN, and she doesn't want it. And it's that same
You're being kind. She throws a massive violent fit.
Yeah. And they're like, how many times have we heard or seen or whatever kids? I mean, even just yesterday, there was a video that came out of a teacher, not even a teacher. She's like a para-teacher, taking a freaking Nintendo away from somebody in class and then being assaulted and knocked out and being told and by a 16-year-old kid that was like 6'5", 200 some pounds, and tells her, I'm going to kill you when I get back. And like, because he can't let go of his device.
Okay. Yeah. I won't watch that video, but
it's really
who
awful.
has tried to take an iPad, who has not tried to take an iPad away from a child at some point?
Right.
We understand what's going on here. But, while I will say that is kind of the most surface level, the least subtexty thing about it, because you're right, it's on the screen pretty early on in the movie. Violet McGraw, Katie, yes. Katie is on the iPad very early on when her parents try to take it away, or they're having a conversation about screen time when they have the accident and her parents die, by the way. So she ends up with Allison Williams' character, who, and this is why I would say it gets a little subtexty, is not a child, but is also dealing with that very same thing. In fact, it would be maybe too obvious to say I identified with her. There's a funny, because there's a psychologist that shows up to kind of help with the transition. And Gemma, Allison Williams' character, who is creating M3GAN, blah, 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 has a shelf full of toys that aren't really toys. They're collectibles. You're not supposed to play with them.
Yeah.
And but in trying to connect, does open one of the boxes in maybe one of the most violent scenes in the movie.
It was a heartbreaking moment, too, as a collector, going, I know what she's going through right now. I know that feeling.
And then it's like this transformer or something, like that is in a ball, and the psychologist is like, okay, roll it back and forth to each other. And Allison Williams has the moment where she's like, well, it's not technically made for that. Like it does so much more. Like, and I'm like, she's right. Listen to her. Listen to what she's telling you. Anyway,
psychologists are bad. That's what I've learned. They ruin toys.
So Allison Williams, not a child, still dealing with this, dealing both with maybe having come up or having not figured out the answer to technology yet, and how to not let it take over.
Yeah,
so to
yeah,
speak.
absolutely.
But also not knowing how to pass that on to the next generation in Katie. So it's operating on a whole bunch of levels, man, that I was not expecting. And again, I apologize for not expecting, because it does a fantastic job with. And to speak to kind of one of the last things you said about whether or not it is going to give you kind of the craziness, or whether or not it is going to give you the one-liners. This is James Wan is on here somewhere. He helped
produced
write it.
Yeah, he
right?
produced it. It's his story. Akilah Cooper wrote
story
it.
by, you're right. Yeah.
Akilah Cooper wrote it, but it's his idea and production.
So as a James Wan is wont, you never quite know like how serious he's going to get at certain times.
Right.
Or he flirts with it for part of the movie, and you're like, okay, when is this going to go off the rails in the most maybe popcorn pleasing way possible? And this movie flirts with that a whole bunch, and it probably flirts with it longer than most. And I don't know if I would attribute this to Akilah Cooper or Gerard Johnstone, who you have told me about because of Homebound. Is that right?
I liked Homebound. Housebound. Yeah. Housebound was a good one.
Housebound. Yes, it is Housebound. Yes. Is that something he's prone to do? Is he kind of flirt with the insane?
I mean, certainly Housebound does. Yes. It does eventually get nuts. So there is something along those lines, but I don't know that this is him so much, or if it's Akilah Cooper mixed with the James Wan, or all three of them. Who knows?
Okay. Yeah, that's probably that's always the answer, isn't it? But it is so good at doing that, because it does flirt with all these subtexts and the technology thing. And then, spoiler, we're going to spoil, but takes that trip until maybe the beginning of the third act, if I'm being generous, when there is an emotional catharsis. Gemma, and because they've gone far off the rails, relationship wise, Katie is all the way out. She wants Megan. She's starting to hate Allison Williams' character, Gemma. And
nice cover.
They come back together at maybe the beginning of the third act in a way that's like, okay, here's quote unquote the ending. We've solved all the problems. And I'm like looking at my watch. I'm like, oh, there's going to be 20 minutes of just pure nuts now.
Megan about to go off.
Yep, and she did, and it does. Although still not. It's so strange, because there is a moment. She does drop at least one-liner, and it's when she's starting to go, Megan the doll, there's starting to be some issues she's starting to notice, and she's starting to come out about it. And it's in the middle of the night, and she pops up out of nowhere, which she does. She's like a little Batman, just like always showing up just out of nowhere. I guess was that a reverse Batman. Batman disappears out of nowhere,
maybe
right?
Reverse Batman.
Okay. She keeps doing the reverse Batman to people, and she does it in the middle of the night, and Allison Williams' character, Gemma, says, where did you come from, or something like that? And she's like, oh, I couldn't sleep. Occupational hazard. And I'm like, what is that? Occupational, like, because androids don't sleep? Is that what it's such a weird, almost like, as she's processing this information and becoming sentient, is she like including pop culture, and that's what's driving her insane? Like, is that what's actually ruining her mind right now?
So the way that was one where I read that as she said she can't sleep, because the one thing Megan never really does is she never really turns on Katie, which you kind of expect. I mean, that's what happens in Chucky. Chucky turns on the little boy. He wants to, not because he wants to kill him so much, but he wants to put his human soul into the boy.
Right. Yes.
But this is a case where it's like Megan is so obsessed with the prime directive of keep Katie safe that she can't sleep. She has to be awake to make sure nothing happens to Katie. And it's like the creepiest freaking thing, because in every sense, this whole movie is like one step away from proving out that like a sentient Furby could be a nightmare for humanity. Hey, Furby!
I mean that's kind of the toy that comes out right before Megan.
It's, yes,
yeah,
it is. It's a Furby.
In fact, yeah, the movie starts with that commercial, doesn't it?
Yes, and the whole point of Megan is that Gemma feels that the current toy is just vapid and stupid and could be so better in so many ways. And the company is making billions, but they're realizing that other companies are making the same thing and selling them for cheaper. So her job at the beginning, why she's being yelled at about, why are you spending so much money building this android, is because she's supposed to be spending all of this time and money improving little things about this Furby that she's like, it's not going to make it better. It's dumb. This is cool and interesting in the future.
Speaking of which, it really, again, coming back to the marriage of marketing and horror, comes together at the end where they're getting ready to launch the thing, and they drop that $10,000 price point, and I'm like, $10,000? And then I remembered that I think there was a line about them saying they were going to sell it at a loss first or something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but $10,000, that's like I could kind of afford that if I really tried for maybe a year or something. Like, that's not so out of reach for a lot of people. And then I was like, oh, this is like, and we've just reached an end of the world scenario right now because of marketing. Yeah.
Like, could you imagine? So multiple people have, so I hope that they make a sequel, and I hope the sequel is called M3GANs, and that there are multiples, and that what happens is that you end up with these M3GANs fighting each other because their prime directive is to save their person. And so they keep thinking that the other M3GANs are threats to their people, and it just...
You've described Terminator.
And then Terminator happens, yes. Except a bunch of little girl robots this time, not Schwarzeneggers. Like, how cool is that?
Oh. Also, if they didn't do like the callback where there's a M3GAN, it doesn't have to be on treads, although a M3GAN that's, evolved to be on treads would be fine. Just like walks over and crushes a human skull or something. Yeah.
And then you see one in the air, with wings. It's a giant hunter killer, but it's just it's M3GAN. It's just a giant.
They do the Gremlins 2 thing where it's like this is the Aliens thing where this is the flying M3GAN. This is the tank M3GAN. This is the M3GAN with lipstick. I guess that one already works.
Christopher Lee needs to show up and have a genetics lab that's doing weird experiments.
He would have to show up. There would need to be a genetics lab.
I don't care if he's dead. Bring him back.
I don't either, but in the best way.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay. So, also before moving on, because we did talk about this centerpiece scene.
Oh yes,
where I think we were going there. Did we not even talk about it at all? Maybe.
No. Yeah, it's amazing. It's my favorite scene in the movie.
But while M3GAN has now been approved and is ramping up to production, Gemma has involved Katie to the extent, because M3GAN has also paired with Katie, so it's like
she's basically Katie being the child of loss is being given by Gemma a surrogate. It's supposed to be the surrogate, especially the surrogate that Gemma doesn't feel like she can be. She needs something there to kind of distract Katie. So this becomes that surrogate. Right? Like it's
in a bad way, and part of her team is concerned with like, well, if this is actually taking time away from,
which I love that they bring that up. I love that her teammates are the ones that bring that up, and they bring it up like in a valid way that feels like friends would do that to a friend with if they were running into a situation with their kid, they'd be like, man, maybe, I don't know, this might not be the best thing.
But Allison doesn't hear it because she's not there yet. So there is a moment where the neighbor's dog bites Katie. So Katie is also physically really not in the best. It's kind of the first violence done. Yeah, the dog gets a hold of M3GAN even. It's pretty rough. All of the practicality of M3GAN's movement, and when she's because they'll switch to the doll when M3GAN gets like really beat up or torn up by the dog or something like that.
Great.
So
it's great. Yeah, when she gets pulled through the fence by the dog, so funny. Like, I just lost it.
And then afterwards, when she like pops up from behind the fence and she's completely disheveled, but like even more threatening. But this leads up to this investor moment, where they're having investors over. They're going to see this demonstration between Katie and M3GAN. Gemma's like, you don't have to do it, but a lot of people are going to be coming. So obviously not putting Katie's best interests
the guilt
first.
trip there was real awful.
And Katie's like, no, I can do it. So they show up, and what this movie does, kind of while it's again flirting with the fantastic, but also with the subtext, there are moments where M3GAN is seemingly the one that realizes they don't have any control over their tech, that they're obviously putting, which I guess would also make sense because she's supposed to care for Katie in this way.
Yeah.
Because Katie breaks down in the middle of the demonstration and is like, my parents are dead, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, this can't be part of the demonstration.
This is not good. But
M3GAN excels after a sideways glance to the crowd that's like, she shouldn't be doing this. Like, you knew she shouldn't come here. Like, she's not ready for this. This is not appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, completely, uses her detection to like see her emotional state and basically solve the problem and talk to her about it and sings a song.
Yeah.
Right? Is that the first song we get?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, maybe it might be the second, because she also does a titanium, like on Bulletproof.
But I think that's
three.
I think that's at
Is
the
that later?
end. I think that's towards the end when she's
No, the end one is where she's like hanging upside down.
Yeah.
And she sings.
I don't remember. But
there's three songs.
The musical bits are very funny. They're super short, but they're like great.
Absolutely. And anyways, so the demonstration is a success, but that moment where M3GAN really has the upper hand thematically, psychologically, like in every way, because Katie should not be here doing this. Such a good moment. And the movie goes back and forth with that.
So well, and so well written too. Like it felt like a really intimate moment between between two people, between a young child and somebody who is, I don't want to say therapeutic, a therapist like that, but you know what I mean? Like somebody who understands how to kind of talk to other people in tragedy. And to see the M3GAN robot do that, and it was such a brilliant moment, because it does reinforce a couple of things that you've already mentioned, but also it reinforces that M3GAN is primarily there to help Katie, and this is one of those where I kind of look at it as her going, I can not only help Katie, but I can make everybody think that I am different than what they think I am. Like she knows that. M3GAN as the android knows that. And it's such a fun dynamic to see an android learning what its purpose is and how it's supposed to work, with the juxtaposition against Katie growing up and trying to learn what she's supposed to do and how she's supposed to to manage her life now, and how she's supposed to deal with the fact that she has no parents, this, that, the other thing. So it's a really interesting juxtaposition to watch those two grow together differently but similarly. And
yeah, there's a bunch of parallels like that too.
And then if you ever have been a single parent, or have ever had to deal with that, like it's what they have Allison Williams doing, like it feels very real. It feels very much so like somebody wrote that from an experience. They're like, yeah, the person cares, they want to be there, but they're not the parent. They don't know. This is not their thing. Like, they're figuring it out too. And I think the movie does a great job of not making, I think everybody that makes a poor decision in the movie, for the most part, like, I think that their decisions actually make some kind of sense from a parental standpoint. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't feel like people are making dumb choices because it's a dumb choice, like, and I love that.
Everything's backed up. Everything's,
it makes sense. It doesn't feel out of place or like that they did something for the contrivance of the film. They were like, we're not going to, they kept the relationships going and maintained them in it feels like a very real way.
Yeah. Which again, for a movie about a sentient AI robot doll that goes on a murdering spree, which I don't want to leave out, there is a bit of a murdering spree towards the end. Although I guess the team survives. Not everybody that's dead, really. Again, spoiling this. And there are moments that I kind of don't even want to mention for that reason.
No. This movie has a couple of real fun surprises in for it.
But like little things like there's a moment where she's really gone off the deep end. That has all happened. We've had our emotional catharsis, and the CEO comes running looking for M3GAN because the launch is happening, and he doesn't have Allison Williams' character Gemma or M3GAN, and he finds M3GAN just standing in the hallway, kind of Shining style, and she does like a TikTok dance.
It's the dance scene. It's
in. Oh, okay. This is all right. All right. So you maybe have seen this already.
So the initial part of that dance sequence where she's kind of standing there and moving and all that was a huge part of the trailers, and also ended up being
okay.
They used it.
Now I'm glad I didn't watch the trailer.
They used it at like not the Super Bowl, but at some like football thing. They had a whole bunch of M3GANs, people dressed as M3GAN, come out and do that dance.
Oh, I think I saw a behind the scenes picture of that.
No. One thing I want to say
make any sense
about that dance and M3GAN in general, the character, there are behind the scenes interviews and stuff with the young girl who played M3GAN, because there was a teenager, she was 13, I think, in that like in the mask
when it was the real because
when it was the real and she is it was a real person, and she did the dance and she did all of the stuff, and she was like, they asked her some questions. How does it feel to have to kill people? And she's like, I don't really like it, but it's in the movie. And she was super adorable and everything. But seeing the way they filmed all that and the background on it, and then her as well, just what a delight. That is such a that young lady had what I'm gonna guess is a pretty great experience doing this movie, and the dance sequence at the end when she is chasing the head honcho, the boss, is it's so to me.
She's like TikTok dance that ends in a cartwheel and ripping like the machete off of a paper cutter, and then done. And then his reaction.
And it's legitimately one of my that's an all-timer, man. That's an all-time sequence.
It is. Anyway, yeah.
Great.
So that's followed up by, again, just more off the rails, some good actual one-liners from other people. They're setting up for the launch, and the marketing girl is coaching everybody. When M3GAN is revealed, it's important we get big reactions. Open I feel I don't even want to spoil. That's all I'll say. That's
all we're gonna say.
M3GAN's a good movie.
M3GAN is a good movie. We would give it something out of something.
Yeah, like 56 stars even.
Out of 43 processors of M3GAN. So pretty good.
To know that it's still the metric still holds up over time.
Yeah, we've nailed it. We understand how to rate movies appropriately.
Mm-hmm. On Book Club for Movies, where if you want to also rate movies or whatever, it's podcast at bookclubformovies.com, Facebook, Twitter. Also, why is Patreon the first thing I forget to mention? It's because it's the latest edition, although it might be close to a year old now. But we have a Patreon. If you've enjoyed any of this, it helps us do more of it. We are in something of a transitional period, so we're trying to figure out the path forward when it comes to extra content and what bonuses you might enjoy as a patron, but it's forefront of the mind and something will show up. I have a BCFM by myself planned for, we are Saturday next week.
Perfect.
So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah.
And
I am just disappointed in myself every day for not being able to do more. All of my camera and everything have basically been packed away. We're planning on moving over the next month or so. Yeah, so there's I'm just swamped.
Not being a patron, I would say don't even worry about it.
Well, thanks.
You do what you need to do. You're headed towards Wisconsin at the end of March, like you said. So yeah. I can only imagine, is your current house that you are stationed in at the moment on the market? Has it sold? Are you?
It's going on the market very soon. It should be going, and then we're hoping it will sell also sooner than later.
I can't imagine. Is the Colorado housing market anything like all of the other housing markets where
probably
it's hard to? Okay, all right. So
yeah.
We wish you all the luck in the world. We, being me and possibly the patrons, let Matt know his address is You want to buy his house? His
Yep.
address is
Thornton,
Whoa,
Colorado.
whoa, whoa. I'll bleep that out. Don't worry.
Okay.
Come back next week when we do what we do.
Well, I have a number of movies that I'll be writing about, hopefully for the newsletter this month. It may be a little late, but I've got some good ones there. What
do you want to? Are these ones you've already seen? Do you want to?
They are ones
double up on the time saving.
Oh no, these are ones I want to write about.
Okay.
They're things
Gotcha.
I'm actively interested in talking about.
Okay, so we shouldn't do a show on them.
No, we will not talk about either of those films.
You're going to see. Oh my gosh, you're going to see quite possibly a new movie this week in the theaters.
It's possible we may
heard.
go see a film in the theater.
Okay, so let's say it's possible we do next week's show on Quantumania.
Quantumania!
Is it Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania?
It is Kang is the only thing that matters, and MODOK, Quantumania.
Kang and MODOK. So come back next week for that, quite possibly, if not always something. It's always something with us.
It's always something in Philadelphia. No, it's always something in...
I'll take Sunny for... No, what is Sunny?
What? I don't know.
Been playing a lot of Jeopardy lately. Did you know this? There's an actual Jeopardy game wherein it does kind of... It's like the Jackbox thing, but with voice detection. So you ring in and give the answer, and you're playing along to old episodes of the actual Jeopardy. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
That's ridiculous. I would be bad at that, but I like it.
Yep. Oh no, certainly. Yeah, I'm good. The video game versions of Jeopardy, I'm okay at because you can tell they're either not written by the actual team or they're
written by the team's children.
Softballs. Yeah.
Who is Donkey Kong?
Game devs. Come on.
Donkey Kong is a video game. Is that true? What is yes?
True or false? This doesn't make. What is false?
When did this game become binary? I don't understand.
So okay, yes, come back next week for that. Matt, wow, we did a tight. We haven't even hit the hour mark here.
No.
Do you have any other movies you want to talk about for the rest of the show?
Only thing I will quickly mention is a documentary I popped on recently called Big Star, Nothing Can Stop Me. It's
right. You mentioned this.
Yeah, I am a big Replacements fan. Really, really have always just that the band has been something for me for a long time now.
Big Star, Nothing Can Hurt Me.
Oh yeah, maybe that's it. Yes, Nothing Can Hurt Me. And
you're thinking of?
I'm thinking of Queen.
Can't stop stopping.
Nothing can stop.
What's the Never Stop
Pop
Stopping?
Star. I also just watched that recently. But
okay,
Big Star was a band that was kind of one of those bands that musicians loved, and record people that wrote in for Rolling Stone or Vibe or all those magazines. They loved this band, and the band ended up with 3 records, but they never hit. They just never were able to get quite over the hill, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Alex Chilton is in the band, and he actually had there's a song that came out in the late 60s that you may remember called "The Letter." Give me a ticket for an aeroplane. Ain't got time to take a fast train.
Okay.
Lonely days are gone. I'm a going home. My baby, she wrote me a letter. So that song.
The rest of it.
So that song, which was a pretty big hit, was actually sung and written by Alex Chilton in a different band. That was his first major.
What's the name
thing.
of the song again, real quick?
It's called "The Letter."
The Letter. Okay,
yeah.
Sorry. Continue. I'm seeing if I can download a hacked version of it on for Rock Band right now. So please continue.
Probably. But there's So
Box Tops.
That's right. The Box Tops.
Yep. All right.
Correct.
Got it.
So Chilton had all this influence there, and eventually Big Star came together, and there was this basically a total lie of a conference put together by a couple of rock journalists trying to get all of the rock journalists into one space to say, hey, we're going to unionize. The entire purpose was to get everybody to listen to Big Star, who was playing at the show. And they did. And people went nuts. And of course, most people will recognize Big Star as they wrote the theme song many years ago in the 70s for that 70s show. That was the theme song for that show is a pull off of one of their songs.
Okay.
And of course I mentioned the Replacements at the beginning. They have a song called Alex Chilton.
Right.
Westerberg was a huge fan of Alex Chilton and Big Star, and so he and that music got me to interested in Big Star, and so I saw this documentary, came out 2012 or something, a few years after Chilton had died, and it's a great documentary. It's super interesting to hear. I love finding out about my favorite musicians' inspirations.
Right.
And when they're these ones, especially, it's the same thing with like actors and directors when they're like, oh man, this tiny little movie that came out in 1963 was directed by this guy who would go on to do this, and it was the most incredible thing, and here's why, and it introduced this type of cinematography or this style, whatever. Same thing with music. It's always the like every guitar player I've ever talked to, the thing that the guitar players will say is, if you want to learn how to play like somebody, you need to find out who they were influenced by, because that's what they're doing. They are trying to play like those people. So you want to play like them, you need to play like those people. And so, yeah, it was just one of those things. And finding out, again, that Big Star was a musician's band. It was a band that musicians loved. And that is unfortunately not enough. They just did not hit the commercial level. And so the documentary kind of goes through that, and it talks about like where they went, where they were, how Chilton dealt with things and all that. It was good. It was on Amazon.
All right. That's there's zero chance I'm not going to watch that. Did you ever watch the Edgar Wright one of these?
The one about Sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic.
Okay.
And Sparks is another one of those bands where
I'm going to say that's what it reminds me of. Yeah.
They are 100% one of those. Every musician that existed loved Sparks, and the only people that know Sparks now know it because of like that. Like Sparks got their research. They've been around for decades, making music consistently. Still,
right.
They're still making new music. Like now, because they got a little bit of attention, they're getting a lot more offers from big musicians that were like, you guys are that band. I didn't know we could like work with you. so yeah, that's a cool documentary. And Sparks, super weird.
I wish I was more on my, so I'm getting back into watching movies. Really, I took a big long break. While we took a break, I don't know, did some stuff, made some things. So I haven't watched a ton, but I have a few queued, and one of them is Stop Making Sense.
I was gonna say I was literally going to recommend it right now. When you started, I was like, oh, if you want to watch a rock documentary, you have to watch Stop Making Sense.
I completely forgot, never knew. I don't know at this point that it was Jonathan Demme. Yeah, no idea. So yes.
The other one that's actually super interesting is it's Don't Look Back.
The Oasis one.
Yeah, yep. Don't Look Back. It was came out in 67. D.A. Pennebaker, and it's him following Dylan around.
Right, yeah, that's the
through England and all that stuff. But it's an amazing doc, and it's also where the music video for
the one with the
Rainy Day William, but the signs.
Right, yeah, the one. Yeah.
I can't think of what it's called.
I've never seen that. Actually, I've never seen the Scorsese one either. The Stones, which Stones are fine. I guess I've never really.
The most interesting thing that you could get out of the Stones is live at Altamont, so that you can get a handle.
There you go.
And that's only interesting because of the whole Hell's Angels thing, and that's
right.
Super crazy. So.
Okay, yeah. Maybe we'll come back to music. Maybe at some point. Who could say? Let's get one of the. Oh, actually, no. I'll tell you what. I do have two that we've both seen that we've never actually talked about, and I'm wondering if we just get them out of the way. But they're excellent movies, so that I don't think there's any getting them out of the way to it. But we never talked about the Weird Al movie. that itself just seems weird. I feel like
so. This is a one that I unfortunately feel like it would be a quick one, because it's great. It's fantastic. I love everything about the movie. I love what it is. I love that it knows what it is. And I love that they were like, oh yeah, this is the Weird Al biopic. And it's obviously so just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's Weird Al.
So did you know that going in?
I did not. I
okay,
had
good,
no idea.
yeah.
I thought but then because the first few things I saw, I was like, okay, yeah, I get the Harry Potter looking, Daniel Radcliffe looking good, right? And then there's the moment where in the trailer he took off his shirt, and I'm like, okay, so he's still ripped. What the hell?
Very ripped.
What the hell? And then for the movie to end up being UHF, like his biopic by way of
right.
UHF, is amazing.
Yeah, so I don't want to say anything more than that because I think part of the fun was discovering that in real time. But there is for all of what you might expect it to be, it is so much more. And it is. It's Weird Al's humor through and through. It's really good. But just that all throughout, just things that you're like, oh, this is funny, and I don't like immediately register why until I think of it, which is very Weird Al to me. Like he has he runs the gamut of complete gags, one-liners, and like goofs to 3 to 5 seconds later. Oh,
yeah,
like pretty good. Anyway,
it's
the whole movie's it's really good. It's
Yeah.
super fun. By the end, you're just like, oh, this is everything I thought it was going to be and more because I didn't
nothing
have any idea.
and nothing what I thought. Yeah, it's good. It's very good. I like it.
There is a moment in the middle where he goes on kind of a drinking rampage. It's the second act suck, I believe we've termed at one point, that maybe gets a little long in the tooth. Like I don't know if it's we're taking the joke to the nth degree and it's funny, it's not funny, it's funny, it's not funny, it's funny.
Right.
But that is the only moment where I'm like, okay, because right after that the whole thing jumps off into the other half that we're kind of not talking about.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about, and I agree. It was a little
maybe could have come a little sooner. Maybe.
Yeah.
But yes, it's fun. That's all taken up with Radcliffe on stage being completely ripped, which again feels like a great take on classic Weird Al.
Yeah, just going absolutely ham on a accordion,
bottle of Jack or something like that.
Yes, and also that.
Yeah, good stuff. Go watch the movie. The other one I mentioned we watched already that we've both seen that again might take some time, so I'm going to skip and talk about something else.
All right.
Let's talk about Glass Onion sometimes, but maybe not right now.
Is that okay?
Did you ever? You did not. I watched Samaritan.
I've not watched that. No, and I won't.
Yeah, I don't think.
I don't care.
You got a Stallone stuff going on, or it's just not?
No, I just don't care. It doesn't look good.
Okay,
it's not interesting. And Stallone has never been a draw for me. He was I grew up. So keep in mind, I grew up in that time when it was Schwarzenegger and Stallone.
Oh, yeah.
And I was firmly on the Schwarzenegger side.
Sure.
And that has never changed. I like Stallone movies, but he is not interesting he is never a draw for me. So
I mean, I feel like we've had this conversation, and yeah, it's I feel like few and far between that I go see. He's actually more of an interesting character to me nowadays. He was an early person I followed on Twitter just because he was I feel like he's doubled down on kind of the Rocky thing, which maybe he never didn't. But he just seems like a surprisingly genuine to kind of not terribly self-aware person at times, and it's endearing. I don't know. Yeah.
I've heard stories about him versus Schwarzenegger being nice people, and it's not necessarily. I don't.
Okay.
The stories I've heard from that are anecdotal but personal to people that I've known that have met and known him he's not necessarily the nicest cat in the world, but whatever.
Oh yeah, no. In fact, I'm saying just recently, like in his old age, where he posts a lot of pictures of his family and stuff
that's probably
like
the brain damage from making Rocky.
Yeah, if anybody's posted pictures of their family on the internet,
yeah, love is something only women can do. Remember, we talked about this.
Oh, that is aggravating.
Yeah,
but look at your Twitter.
Don't.
Yes, for details. Samaritan is. I mean, I'm not going to change your mind because it is probably everything you're thinking it is. It's if for those who don't know, because you might, because I feel like it didn't make a big splash, but he plays a retired or disappeared superhero. very heavy generic comic book vibes to this movie.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in a bad way, unless that immediately turns you off. But like the bad guy's name is literally just Nemesis. You know, his Samaritan's not a bad superhero name, I think, but it's still fairly, you know, again, we're dealing in generics here a little bit. And there was a fight between them. They were brothers and they both disappeared, but it's been Sylvester Stallone has been retired, but he's still Samaritan. So he still is like invulnerable and super strong. You know, he also has kind of the generic skills, although there is a fun moment where he gets hit by a car. He's completely demolished and broken. And as he's healing himself, he's giving off tons of smoke and steam because he's like something about biodynamics, something whatever.
Sure.
He needs to cool himself down because regenerating causes a lot of heat and all this.
Of course, that's true.
Kind of a neat. It actually worked for me as far as that went. But the movie itself, it's got a bad case of restless camera syndrome. You know, it never quite stops moving for no determined reason. It's not really communicating anything extra. It's just, well, it's better to be moving than still, right? Well, maybe you put a purpose behind either, and we're in a better situation. But it's also a little predictable, maybe uneven. But if you squint your eyes, maybe just a little bit, and especially during the horrific de-aging sequences where they obviously did not have the budget and should have just foregone it, it's not bad. I liked it. And the action is above average. That is maybe what's happening here. Is Action Ryan is taking over, and
that sounds right.
Yeah, it's I liked it. I guess
nothing wrong. I mean, look, we all like movies that we like.
it's our greatest weakness.
It's
yep.
It's our Achilles heel is being film enjoyers.
Fair enough. So Samaritan.
You've just added the final Infinity Stone to your gauntlet of bad.
Marvel Snap. So come back next week for
Marvel Quantumanias.
Ant-Man and Quantumania, the new Ant-Man.
Kang and MODOK.
And see if it's any good, I guess, although you think you already know the answer. Come back and see what we think.
You'll never guess. You won't be able to figure it out.
Who knows? Yeah. Will it be? Will we fanboy the original Ant-Man? One of your favorite Marvels? Top 5 or 3?
Top 5 for sure.
Okay. All right. For sure.
I'm a fan.
So will the Ant-Man and Wasp? Maybe we've most recently talked about that one. Has issues, is enjoyable. Can't remember what they were specifically.
It's okay. It's a little. It's not bad.
Will Quantumania? What side will it fall on? Come back next week and find out. Again, all of the things that we already said, but most importantly, Patreon, and that is patreon.com/bookclub4movies, where just the $2est of dollars will get you both access to us via Discord and a fair amount of posts. What do you think the total patrons specific posts we have waiting for them?
I don't want to guess that. That's going to make us look bad.
No, I don't think it's that. I mean, it's got to be at least
10.
87 more. So
all right.
Added to, I mean, not all of those are patron only. I think there's the newsletters are public, right?
After a while, yeah.
After a while, so that's minus 12 for the year there. But yeah, you're looking at close to 75 extra informations for you to consume there. So.
Go watch a video wherein we talk to Ryan's daughter about the Blair Witch Project.
I mean, that went public as of last Octoberween, but yeah,
it's still public. Go watch it.
Did the one where I talk with my wife and daughter about the August movies ever go public? This is great information. You take the time to find out, and you'll find some great stuff along the way. So either way, just come back next week, I think is what we're talking. It's the main takeaway, if you will, please.
All right, I will come back next week.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.